and care. Welcome.
Welcome. Forgive my Twitter-like introduction here, but Evan Williams is the CEO of Twitter. He's on the far right. Joel Hyatt is the CEO and co-founder with Al Gore of Current TV. Let me begin by asking, we've lost it. You guys do a cool and new product. What's significant about it? Who wants to be first?
Well, I think it depends on for whom you're asking. For Twitter, it's significant for people who use it because it changes how they connect with people, keep on top of information, and share thoughts. And I think if you expand that to a very large user base, it can change culture.
Has it?
Well, it's small still.
Joe, what's significant?
Well, I think that what's significant about what Current's doing, Twitter and others, is that we're changing the paradigms of the media business by enabling consumers and users of media platforms to influence, if not even to create, the content they consume. And that's a very big deal. And you see it, you see it at Current with viewer-created content or even viewer-created ads. You see it in the collaboration that we did with Twitter on the debates, and it's really a good example. There were a lot of ways you could watch, a lot of networks that you could watch the debates on, but all of them had one formula. It was the candidates, and it was a moderator, and after that, you had the pleasure of seeing the punditry. Really partisan, strident people screaming at each other with a point of view that you knew in advance of watching it.
You don't like the best political team on television?
I don't like the format. And I think what we were able to do is invite the public into the debates and allow them to engage in the conversation of democracy. And that's what's been missing on the media, and that's what we were able to do collaborating.
Talk about what you guys did the other night. You collaborated on election night. I think you've got a little short on the show.
Yeah, well, with Evan's Twitter, we collaborated on the coverage of the 4 debates, and then we collaborated with Twitter and with Dig in a 3-way collaboration on election night coverage, again, in which we allowed a conversation to take place in every conceivable media format, from rich media and video to text to tweets, all of which were then put together in a totally unique and creative way that enabled people to participate in the experience, interpret it for their peers, and participate in what was truly a historic night. We do have a little reel that shows a little bit about both the debate coverage and the election day coverage.
Technology.
It's not our technology, but
I think we should keep talking. Well, let me ask you an embarrassing question, each of you. I mean, what?
No, that's the wrong reel. That's the wrong reel.
Relationship
Is
for
it?
about,
Yeah.
6
Can we
months.
cut that
Jeanette
one?
likes to go on road.
Yeah, you're scooping our conversation. Those are our great viewer-created ads. You'll have to wait a little bit to see the commercial.
We hit the road and I never looked back.
I don't think anybody's listening to us, Ken. That's not what we wanted to do.
Can we cut that? Thank you. Okay. So what you're doing is new, and we'll get back to the clip in a second. But what's not new about Twitter and Current is that you're not making any money. So how are you going to make money? Evan?
I don't think it's as big a dilemma as people seem to think it will be for us. We haven't focused on it yet, and I can't say for sure exactly how it's going to work, but we believe that Twitter is creating a lot of value both for users and in a lot of cases for companies and organizations that are using it as a new communications channel, that has some unique properties. It has real time, it's one-to-many, but also has a back channel interactive aspects. And there are all kinds of companies that are using it to do sales, like Dell Outlet, Woot.com, a lot of companies who say, who have goods that are scarce and they want to get the word out very quickly. And so people are opting in for that information. People are also opting in for more marketing related messages, and it's a way to keep in touch with people, but also companies and organizations or brands you care about. And it's sort of natural. It's not a purely social medium, and it also adds value. Some of the things we're experimenting with around the election, but could be done for other events, to see the aggregate, the real-time information that is being produced about any topic or event that's coming out. So new camera comes out, you can go to our search site and see what people are saying about it faster than anywhere else.
But let me be sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that build it and they will come? We have a product that is useful to many people, and we have faith that one day we will be able to monetize?
Well, it's more, yes, we do have faith, but what I'm focusing on is it's more than that, because there are purely social communication mechanisms that are really valuable to users, but traditionally hard to monetize. IM and email, for example. Twitter has some aspects that are much different than that, and if you look at how people are actually using it today, there's commercial value, not just personal value. And commercial value, if there's commercial value, we can really deliver on that proposition that many companies are experimenting with Twitter today, then I don't think it's going to be hard to monetize that.
Joel?
Well, we're actually doing very well in terms of financial metrics candidates for a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, because we've been focused on business model and revenue model and every aspect of what we're doing, including our leading edge innovations. But we're also sitting on top of the foundation of a very old-fashioned and quite attractive business model, and that's the cable satellite television network. So we're now, Current's now carried into 58 million subscriber households in the US, UK, Ireland, and Italy, and we're paid every month on every one of those subscriber households. So that's an old-fashioned business model because it has two revenue streams: the license fees we get from the Comcast and DirecTVs, and the advertising revenues we get from our sponsors. And so we launched Current TV in August of '05, and '06, our first full year, we operated profitably on an EBITDA basis. We operated profitably on an EBITDA basis in '07. And that actually has been how we've been able to finance internally all of the new media developments that we're doing. Again, all of them which have advertising revenue model associated with them. And as we continue to innovate, we believe there are other revenue models as well. So, you know, Al and I actually, you know, began Current over a series of conversations a few years ago with a lot of innovative notions about how to unleash the creativity of young adults and empower them to be able to share these platforms, to communicate and to create content that they then want to consume.
What percentage is generated?
But Ken, if I just may on the business model, in that series of conversations that led to the founding of Current, we came up with a lot of great ideas for which we couldn't find a business model. And so we really turned it on its head and said, look, you know, the media industry has some very attractive business models. Let's see if we can find one to which we can then bring massive doses of innovation. Instead of starting with innovation seeking a business model, we started with a business model seeking innovation. So we've had, you know, we are revenue generating and profit generating, and it have been, you know, for a while. So it's a little bit different, and we're applying that same discipline now as we innovate in the new media space, so that even the collaboration we did with Twitter and did the other night on the election, which was thrown together in the last 2 or 3 weeks before the election. It required all kinds of software development, content development, working with Twitter, working with Dig. The fact is, we were able to call Microsoft and said, this is going to go on the air 3 days. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be like no one's ever seen. They said, you don't understand. There's no way we can get an approval to sponsor anything in 3 days. We said, oh, that's too bad. It'd be a good thing for you. They said, well, tell us about it. We told them about it. So the next day they called and said they were in. And so even the innovative stuff we're doing is finding revenue.
Is it 40% the figure user-generated content?
Yes.
See if we can do that clip now.
Which one?
The one on election night.
Do we have another clip now that we can run?
Hello everybody, well at last the election's over. Now you have some time to sit back and reflect upon this long journey before the next campaign season starts in a week or so. During TV, turn this election inside out. We got rid of pundits An added perspective, first, we worked with Twitter to hack the debate. Hack the debate was such a success that we brought in Dig to up the ante and do something completely different for our election night coverage.
We are going to have some leadership from Washington.
We've got to enact legislation to fix this.
Joe Sixpack, hockey mobs across the nation.
This is the most important election you will ever have voted in.
You will not see one dime's worth of tax increase.
I want Joe the plumber to spread that wealth around.
This is not the end.
Joe, what excites you about that? What you did I'm sorry, Evan. Evan, what excites you about what you did the other night?
I think it's a step toward something that I've been involved with for many years, sort of, under the highfalutin term democratization of media. And so I started working on blogging almost 10 years ago. And I really realized that the ability for one of the most profound promises of the internet was giving everybody the ability to have a voice. And that's sort of mundane now because it's well known, but there's a whole nother realm here with what Current is doing. There's two things that are new. One is that there's this medium, the biggest medium in America, that hasn't been democratized yet, that of television. And with blogging the last 10 years or so, there's been this great aspect that anything that's published on the web, bloggers can offer an alternative viewpoint or an analysis, but it's always kind of after the fact. And now with Twitter and this broadcast model, you can get alternative viewpoints while something is happening. And that's pretty exciting.
One of the questions that, particularly in light of the recession we're agreed to be in at this moment, is you are reliant, here you are, new media, reliant on a very old model, which is advertising support. Can you imagine each of you other forms of revenue streams going forward, and what form might they take? Evan?
Yeah, well, our revenue is not necessarily advertising per se. Again, we haven't launched anything yet, but what we plan to do is, I think advertising, as most people think of it, is more and more a difficult proposition. The whole idea of we're going to insert some message along with the content that you actually want and hope that you'll be interested in that as well. Twitter's model is pretty different, where there is commercial activity, as I was saying, but it's entirely opt-in. When people want the commercial information, they'll ask to receive it. If they don't want it, if it's not offering value, they won't receive it. And so it's much more organic. And we could put advertising within the content that they're consuming, but I don't think we need to do that necessarily. I don't think that's going to be the best benefit for either companies or end users. I think what we can do is provide a really valuable communication channel and charge the people who want to use that communication channel commercially. And it's not advertising as you might think of. Joel?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of innovation across revenue models, whether that be subscription, license fee, content rights, whether it be e-commerce applications, in addition to innovation on the basic advertising revenue stream. And I believe that, again, those who stay out at the leading edge of innovating on the business model side, as well as on the technology side and the content side, are going to be winners as we go forward.
When you look at how you bumped up against traditional media, traditional ways of doing things, what impact, how do you gauge the impact you've had on them?
Well, look, we're very proud at Current. you know, in terms of the thought leadership we provided to the industry. When we set out with the notion of user-generated content, no one had ever heard of it. YouTube didn't exist. I mean, Facebook, none of those companies existed. And the television, you know, experience was a completely closed system controlled by a small oligopoly with one-way communication into people's homes. And the only choice and control you had, which was really none, was you could pick up your remote control if you didn't like what you watched and flick to another network over which, again, you had absolutely no influence except to decide whether you wanted to change to something else over which you had no influence. And the idea of sharing the power of that incredibly powerful but closed system with the audience and with users was totally revolutionary. Now, many of the features that we innovated in fulfillment of that strategic vision have been copied by media companies all over the United States and indeed all over the world. We feel we're delighted about that. And whereas user-generated content was a new idea then and one that, you know, people really kind of scoffed at, it is today ubiquitous and pervasive and taken for granted. So we're awful pleased that you know, from CNN to MTV to CBS to ABC, whoever you want to name, we can point to specific features they've taken right off of current, and that's part of what we set out to do, is provide that thought leadership.
Evan, how do you gauge your impact on other media?
Well, I think we're both part of that same movement, and that has been the mainstream media companies have realized that there's value in tapping into people's voices for a number of years, and they're all trying to do stuff. They're all kind of desperately trying to do stuff now. And for Twitter, it's been really interesting, the uptake we've gotten really recently. If you've watched CNN in the last couple of months about the election coverage, they're turning to Twitter on a daily basis. It's in a number of television shows where they'll go to the Twitters. It was on the homepage of Newsweek.com the other day. They had a little Twitter box. It's on tons of sites where they're either referring to Twitter or getting data from Twitter. Even in less obvious ways, there are lots of reporters who are getting information from Twitter or going to Twitter to see what trends are happening right now, because the buzz is very immediate, and there's major news organizations who are watching our trend data and trying to figure out news stories before they hit the wire because of what's happening or what the people are talking about.
Joel, you talked about user-generated, and the other video we have, let's see it. It's about user-generated advertising.
Right. In addition to innovating on viewer-created content, we extended that proposition to our sponsors and our advertisers on the theory that viewer-created ads would be far more authentic, far more realistic, and indeed they become content and programming instead of advertising, and we're able to now show our advertisers, Ken, that our viewers prefer viewer-created ads 9-to-1 over the Madison Avenue ads. So here's just examples of that.
We cue up that the next video. I feel like I'm back in New York. It'll come at some point, but let's move on. Let me ask you a question. There is an argument that some might make that when people are Twittering their friends all day long, and going to the bathroom now, and about to have dinner, that they feel like they're familiar with what their friends are doing, but you lose the intimacy that you have with conversation. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say, first of all, Twitter is not a replacement for human contact. But
I know it's not meant to be, but is it possible it becomes one?
I suppose it is for some people that are dysfunctional anyway, but I mean, Twitter in a lot of ways does the opposite. It adds intimacy, because one of the, if you live with a person or with a person on a daily basis, you know lots of mundane things about them, and if you don't see a person very often, you catch up on the big stuff when you talk to them. But there could be someone who's very close to you, a family member or an old friend who happens to live across the country, and we hear constantly from people who have now connected with that type, a friend like that, or over Twitter, and now the relationship is much more intimate because they're getting these little details throughout the day. And people will share what they're comfortable sharing, but it doesn't have to be profound stuff. It can be like when I went to the DMV because my car got the boot or something, and it's stuff that you wouldn't normally share when you're doing the once a month phone call, which is even hard to keep up with, at least with for me and calling my mom. But if you can share this stuff throughout the day, and then it's a compliment, and you feel closer the whole time, and then you can catch up in face-to-face or on the phone, and it adds intimacy. It does the opposite of what you suggest.
Joel, one of the concerns that people in journalism have, and I assume it was yours when you talked about one of the reasons that you started Current, was you were about size and the de-emphasis on things like investigative reporting. Do you see Current filling that void of the kind of investigative reporting that television has been missing?
Well, we certainly see Current playing a small part in that, and hopefully a part that grows in its importance. We have a vanguard journalism team that is traveling the world telling stories no one else is telling, and telling them in ways no one's telling them. And we have a collective journalism program which allows citizen journalists from all over the world to participate in some of the stories that we're developing. And I think, Ken, that you've hit on a really, really important societal point. I mean, we used to have a journalism profession, and then it became the news business, and then that morphed into part of the media industry, and that's now all owned by conglomerates. And you know as well as I, talking to people who started off as professional journalists, how that metamorphosis ended up changing what it is they do and how it is they're privileged and empowered to do it in ways that are not positive for a vibrant, strong democracy. And so we think that, again, opening up these closed systems, unleashing creativity, empowering people to share their stories, tell their stories, pursue their passions, and then be able to have access to the media platforms to share those stories is very, very important. And citizen journalism is already proven, whether it's in the Katrinas or in other momentous events where the news media is not have access to on the spot. It's proven to be enormously useful and valuable to getting important information out to the world.
I hear we have that video.
So here comes a commercial break with some viewer created ads, I think.
Eugene, this is Jeanette. We've been in a relationship for about 6 months. Jeanette likes to go on road trips, we like to go camping, we like to go out in the country. She is perfect. I'm not gonna lie, it's been fantastic. We hit the road and I never look back. I never look back, mostly because she looks back for me, actually. I love Jeanette, and I'm a little protective of her, but whoa, that one came out of nowhere. This is something I'm in for the long road. Literally. I love her. I'm in love. This is a boy in love. Jeanette, I'm done with the car shows, I'm done just browsing, I'm done with rentals, I'm done with, I'm done with that.
So how do you monetize that?
Well,
Toyota's been our largest sponsor, and they've doubled their money each of the 3 years they've advertised on Current, and in part it's because of the power of these viewer-created ads. So the economic proposition for Toyota is pretty attractive. Instead of spending what is on average $1 million to just produce a 30-second commercial, which they then go buy time on a bunch of networks to air, we, through the system that we've created, source incredible content creators like the young man who produced that commercial. It's all part of the sponsorship package. They pay nothing to produce that commercial. We pay the content creator. If they want to use that spot elsewhere, they have to pay the content creator more to take it off Current, and many of our sponsors do just that. But these are multi-million-dollar sponsorship packages we have with each of these.
How many packages like that do you have?
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
But you have more than one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. We've had, and by the way, advertisers who start with us and are willing to experiment with viewer-created ads
all end up moving most of their inventory to the viewer-created ads, not to the stuff they've already produced. And these are advertisers like Sony and Toyota and T-Mobile and L'Oreal and HP and many others.
Another reason for advertising agencies to sweat.
Well, we try to let them in on the action and take credit for the big ideas as long as we get the sponsorship.
Evan, speaking about sweat, in the middle of the night when you wake up, what's your nightmare for Twitter? What worries you most?
Well, thankfully I'm not waking up in the middle of the night as much lately, but it's still very early for Twitter. I mean, we get a lot of attention for the stage we're at as a company. I think people are excited about the idea and see the potential, but we have yet to realize most of that potential. I mean, we are not at the level of a Facebook or MySpace and well-established and mainstream yet. And so it's all about execution now, and we have to, there's a million worries on a daily basis about a particular feature or a particular technical problem, and people problems and everything else that someone has that they're trying to
But
get.
no overriding.
I'm
worry.
feeling pretty good right now. I don't know. There's not one worry that's overshadowing all the others.
Did you feel his pulse?
See, I was hoping you'd ask me, because I say I'm older than Evan, so I worry a lot more than he does. But for us, I think our competitive advantage will be to continue to stay at the leading edge of innovation. And so that's a process. That's not a question of your success last month with something that was innovative. It was how do you continue to, how do you build internally, innovation processes that assure that you're going to stay out at that leading edge. I think that's very, very hard to do. So we have to attract the very best talent, and we share our passion about Current's mission. And we've got to continually innovate with partners where we can, but on content creation fronts, technology fronts, and again, the user's in control. We've got to provide that content to users on the platforms that they want to receive it, and we've got to continue to envision more and more ways to give them control and power. Where we're headed now, for example, Ken, is we're going to be launching in the first quarter what we call cross-platform channels. And these are going to be, many of them, co-branded with partners, and they'll reside in there'll be a movie channel on current.com with a major co-branded partner that will drive lots of promotion, lots of engagement, lots of participation, and then it'll be paired and themed with a movie review show once a week on Current TV, which will be very much user influenced as to what its content is, creating a cross-platform experience that is not duplicative, but that it is additive, that's mutually reinforcing and re-enriching. A lot of what's going on in the old media world today is about how do we move TV to people's laptops. That's interesting, but it's not a big idea. If you're not in the room with a TV, so you can watch Desperate Housewives on your laptop, okay. But what we see is the really big part of the future is to take the magic of the internet, which really is magical, the interactivity, the empowerment, the participation, engagement, and move that magic to TV. And so that's what we've been trying to do. And again, we're only as good as our next innovation that keeps us up front.